So we just jump in like a bullfrog here. We just jump in like a bullfrog with knight g5. Greetings to all Gambit fans and Evans Gambit enjoyers. Today is an exciting day. Today, we bask in the glory of a newly discovered Gambit variation within the Evans Gambit. So without further ado, let's jump into this. So I'm not going to go over the Evans Gambit too much, but basically it results from e4, e5. We get the Italian game, or as chess.com now calls it, the boy variation of the bishop's opening. So this is pretty standard. So the Evans Gambit comes after we push b4. The idea is that after the bishop captures, if the Evans Gambit is accepted, we push c3 to gain a tempo after the bishop retreats. So the line we're going to be looking at is the stoneware variation, which can be quite pesky. So it looks like an awkward move, but the idea is that after we push d4 in the center, black doesn't capture. If black captures, then we get the full center, and things are looking pretty good for us. So instead, what black does is black leaves the tension, and at the cost of an awkward bishop blocking the pawn and their subsequent development, black prevents us from opening up lines on the board, which is what we want as the Gambiteer. We want open file so we can attack and build initiative, but black denies us that. Now we're going to very quickly jump over to Lichess. Let me just adjust my camera 1 second. As you'll see, if we go back one move, after we play d4, the top move is knight f6. Most players are playing knight f6 in this position. So after knight f6, let's just go back to chess.com. After knight f6, this is where we deploy the gambit, which I will be naming, by the way, as the first to document this gambit. I'll be calling it the Lima gambit. So we deploy the Lima gambit. And as you can see from the evaluation, when we get the evaluation loading, black is going to have an advantage of about 0.9. So black is a little bit better after we play this gambit, but that's not bad for a gambit. And we're going to have a lot of counterplay, as you'll see. So yeah, so you see black is slightly better. Now, I wanted to show you that chess.com evaluates this position at 0.9. because there's a big discrepancy between the chess.com and Lichess engine evaluations. And yeah, I'm going to trust chess.com because it's better. And so, yeah, I'll trust chess.com. But let's jump over to Lichess again. So on Lichess, after we play g4, Lichess hates this move. I'm not sure why it's taking so long, but okay, here we go. So Lichess considers this position -3. Quite shocking, quite a shocking discrepancy. Now we'll look at the refutations, but first, what happens if black takes? Well, if black takes, then we're actually doing better, which, by the way, that is the most common continuation, is for black to take. 60% of players are taking, so don't worry too much, even if Lichess is correct and it is -3, because most of your opponents are just going to take the pawn and you're going to have an advantage again. So after knight takes, we bring our rook to g1. And the top engine move is to protect the knight with h5, which, as you can see, is played 1 out of 14, or 4 times in this variation. 1 out of 4 times was this played. So first we'll look at the more natural move, which is just to drop the knight back to f6. Now, of course, we capture this pawn. We've got our pawn back. Now, as you can see here, we've got the bishop and the rook attacking this weak f7 pawn. And this is really where the strength of the gambit comes in, is when black accepts this gambit, black isn't thinking about the f7 pawn because the attack on the f7 pawn is not obvious in the slightest. But just a couple of moves later, suddenly we're beginning to pile up a little bit. So again, for now, we're going to ignore top engine moves, but the very natural move, and the one that's played in both of the games that reach this position, is rook to f8 to protect this pawn. Now, as you can see, that we have a very natural move here, which is, this is why the gambit's powerful. We just have a clear natural move. So we play bishop to g5. Now, black here again, the best move is to just sack this pawn with h6, but to me, the very natural move is to play bishop back to e7, just to break the pin on the queen and protect this weak knight, which has no support from pawns. And I want to show you that after this move, black just completely loses the game because bang, queen b3, undefendable. He has to push the pawn. We just capture with this. Knight a5, no problem. We're just going to check, and they can block. But as you can see, we're winning material here. It's just a fundamentally winning position. Plus 3.9, and that's just after some very natural play from black. So let's go back a few moves. So yeah, as you can see, you got to remember this one. It's just like one of your key lines you have to remember is after you play bishop g5, if black tries to solve problems by simultaneously breaking the pin and opening up their pawn, well, you have this queen b3 move, which is very typical in the Evans Gambit and some other lines. So we're really bringing the classic Evans Gambit essence to the Lima Gambit today. So yeah, anyway, the best move is just to sack this pawn, but we want to keep the pin, so we maintain this pin. And I mean, black just has some bizarre moves to make here, like rook b8. No one is ever going to play that move. It doesn't really make much sense. So yeah, we'll leave that line for now. As you can see, bishop g5 is the idea after rook f8, but after black allows this, we're already in very good shape. So we'll just have a look now. If black plays h5, what we do is we kick the knight away with h3, and here again we have a plus 0.5 advantage. We're already doing better. Plus 0.7, 0.8 even. We'll see when the engine catches up. But black has to play this bizarre move. Black has to just capture in the center and leave the knight hanging in order to maintain equality. Again, nobody will play this. If you get this position, no one's going to play these lines. You take, and then you capture the pawn in the center. And I mean, you're barely better, but it's just such a hard to play variation that this isn't something you really need to worry about. But again, even if you get this, you're winning. So let's see. So after this, of course, the natural move is for black to retreat to probably to f6, h6, of course. Also, there's nothing too immediately wrong with it at face value. So I go back one move. So yeah, knight f6 is most likely what you'll face, and then again we capture here. Now again, black's move is just to ignore this threat we have and just capture in the center. Very inhuman move. So likely what you're going to get here is, again, rook f8. And once again, we just have a way to pile up on that weak pawn. This weak pawn is a huge theme in the Lima Gambit. So we just jump in like a bullfrog here. We just jump in like a bullfrog with knight g5. And undefendable pawn. 3 attackers, you can't defend this. So after the queen goes to e7, that's the best computer move. We can just take and force the king over. We win a pawn. The engine tells us we should push d5. Yeah, we're really restricting black here. We're shoving pawns at black's nose. We've made the king move, plus 1.6. This is just what you want from a gambit. This is just what you want. So yeah, let's head back a bit here. I think that covers that line. I mean, if you want to analyze it deeper, then fair enough, but we don't want to be here for too long. We just want to show you the themes. So yeah, so we're not going to look at it. I think we've had our fun with the gambit accepted. You see the idea. You play rook g1, and after the knight retreats, you're going to capture on g7, and then you're going to threaten this pawn, and black is going to have a very hard time defending it, and you're just going to pile up with ideas like queen b3, knight g5, and you're going to pile up on this pawn. That's the theme if they accept the gambit. Now, it's true, my gambit is not fundamentally sound. Lichess hates it. But let's just see what the actual move is. So firstly, we have to note that out of the 14 times this position has been reached, the correct continuation has been played, well, the best continuation has been played twice. So that's 1/7. That's 14.28% of players are playing the correct continuation that Lichess gives -3. And remember now, chess.com only gives black -0.9. So anyway, they capture the pawn. We don't really want to capture here because then they're going to give us check, and after we block, they would capture here. So this isn't really what we want. So you don't want to recapture in the center. Instead, you just want to castle. We're gambiting further. Now they can capture now, but they're relinquishing their advantage a little bit if they choose to capture. Now we take the full center, and once again, we've lost our flank pawn, but we've taken the full center, and we're going to have good themes in this position. We're going to have some ideas. Let's just say black castles or something. I mean, we can start to kick away this knight, get the jump. Then, oh wow, I have no idea what this move is supposed to be, but apparently this is decent. But wow, bizarre. Ah, okay, I see. So yeah, we're losing our rook if we play that. I just wanted to check that line because that seemed like a very bizarre move. But yeah, so black can't go back here because they're going to get forked. So they have to retreat. And then if we want, we can capture. But we have ideas, not necessarily in this position, but we have some ideas of going king h1. And yeah, if black makes a random move like this, we can get the rook over. Now, this is a theme I like to play a lot in my games. I gambit the G pawn, and I move my king over, plant my rook on this open file. And I've won many games from people who get so excited about maybe doubling my pawns on the king side or winning a pawn from my king, and they completely underestimate the power of the open rook file. I mean, now you're threatening to capture this just for free. I mean, if black goes lazy with development, bang, you have this and no capture back. Okay, most people at a decent level I'm going to fall for something like that. But the point is that you have open files, and you might be slightly worse, but you have open files. So that's if black gets slightly greedy and decides to capture our pawn. But suppose we castle and then black castles. This is the best line. This is, I guess, the refutation, if you will. Well, you basically look to take the center. You're going to lose this e pawn, and you can try and trade off the knight, or they'll retreat either way. Oh, the engine's getting confused again, but you can capture, and anyway, you're worse, but it's still a game. You still have some practical ideas. You can look to in future in these sorts of positions. You can look to play f5, start a pawn storm on the king side. Again, you have king h1, rook g1, and you're pushing these pawns. You've got the bishop pinning this pawn. You have the rook supporting, and you know black is having a hard time developing their light square bishop. So it's true, you're worse, but all is not lost. You still have hope. You still have stuff to fight for. And again, this is 14.28% of players are even going into this variation. So the last thing we want to look at is there is one more good line. And that's when black just castles, which I don't think is very natural. Again, I mean, again, only 2 out of 14 people played this. But it's 50-50, you know, it's 50-50. In fact, let's see what the other variation is. So even if they're playing the right move, I mean, it's only a sample size of 2, so you know maybe it's a bit pointless, but to look at it too much. But I mean, one player won, one player lost, so it's not all is not lost. So castling is also a good move. Lichess gives -1, but or -2 now. But you can start kicking the knight away, and this is why I don't think castling is very natural, because I mean you can start to attack the knight, and okay, sure, you can take here, but this is not this is tricky to see, because after they capture, then you just have bishop d5, and I mean the knight is just trapped. There's no squares for this knight to escape to. You take the pawn, bishop takes, supported by the knight. So yeah, anyway, you can see that this knight is kind of trapped. So, I mean, the reason why black's winning is because black can capture, and then after you take this one, rook e8, pinned, you go here, and I believe, yep, queen e7, and I mean, you're not holding on to this piece, or maybe you are, but again, I mean, this is a messy line. I mean, you're up material here, I believe. Oh, okay, black has 4 pawns, you have a piece. So black's up material, but you have a piece. I don't know what's going on in this position. I don't know why the engine wants king d1. But again, if you want to analyze this in more detail, then you can go check it out. But the point is that, I mean, piece for 4 pawns, we're down material. The engine doesn't like our position too much, but we're lining up batteries. Looks decent to me. So there is one more trap that we should keep in mind. Let's just see here. Ah, yes. So we push this pawn. So there's 2 pawns on offer here. There's 2 free pawns on offer. Free. We've already looked at if they capture on g4, but what if they capture on e4? Well, now white is significantly better, and they've made a big mistake, because now after they capture, we just have queen e2, and essentially this knight is a big problem, because, well, the only retreating square is to go back to f6, but I mean, now they just get pinged with the fork. We have more attackers than they have defenders, so they just get forked. So yeah, like the engine just starts recommending these counter gambit moves like b5, and yeah, I mean, you're doing better here. You can, if they take, then you're just going to take, and yeah, I mean, you're better. So the point is that there's a lot of problems that black can run into. I mean, if they capture either pawn when you play the Lima Gambit, then they're in bad shape. I mean, we've already seen the power of the Lima Gambit now. It's true it can be refuted, but I mean, most gambits can. I think this is a fun thing you can play. You're not going to get the opportunity to play this very often. So I hope that if you do run into the stoneware defense knight f6 line, I'm very much hoping that you indulge and try the Lima Gambit. And I mean, if you're playing classical and you're a decent rated guy, then probably you shouldn't play it. But I'll definitely play it even in a classical game. If you're playing 10-0, maybe even 15 plus 10, if you're playing blitz, bullet, definitely the Lima Gambit is a strong weapon. So yeah, we'll just go on a very quick recap. If they capture this pawn, then you're going to play rook to g1. The knight's going to be forced to retreat. You're going to capture on g7. You're going to put pressure on the f7 pawn. You have ideas like queen b3, knight g5 to just put even more pressure, which will at some point become undefensible. And if the knight captures here, then it's a trap. You have queen to e2, and you're picking up material. And yeah, they have these good lines where they can capture or they can castle. But fundamentally, what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself castled. You're going to try and take the center if you can, if you get the opportunity. And you're going to play for rook to g1, maybe f4 ideas. And you're going to look to attack on this king side and take advantage of the fact that black has their development inhibited. And yeah, go for something good. So yeah, I think we'll wrap up the video here, but fortunately I don't have any sample games myself in this line. I've never got the opportunity to play it. I only discovered this about a week ago. But hey, maybe at some point I will get the chance. So yeah, look out for some content in the Lima Gambit, and thank you for watching this video. I very much hope that you too will play the Lima Gambit.